Darius Webb was 38 years old, and until the day he landed back in Atlanta, he believed he had built something worth coming home to. He was a structural engineer, a man who spent his career calculating exactly how much weight a structure could bear before it failed. He thought he understood load. He thought he understood pressure. He had no idea his own home had been collapsing for 8 months while he was gone. He had taken the Lagos contract for his family, worked 18-hour days in the Nigerian heat wiring extra money home every month. His wife knew exactly what kind of man he was. She was counting on it. When he walked through his front door that evening, the house smelled wrong, too clean, too quiet, and then he heard it. A slow, deliberate knock coming from behind the basement door. A door that now had a padlock on it that was not there when he left. What Darius found behind that door would not just end his marriage. It would dismantle everything two people had spent nearly a year carefully building against him. He just didn't know that yet. In that moment, he only knew one thing had changed forever. Before we jump into the story, comment where in the world you are watching from and subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you need to hear. The plane descended through Atlanta's evening sky, and Darius Webb pressed his forehead against the cool window. After 8 months in Lagos, even the sight of Georgia's familiar red clay made his chest tight with longing. He'd done good work there. The bridge project was the biggest contract of his career, the kind of achievement that changed a family's trajectory. His mother had taught him that success wasn't about quick wins. It was about building something that lasted. The cabin lights flickered on as flight attendants moved through final checks. Darius straightened his collar, smoothed his tie. Even dog-tired, presentation mattered. Another lesson from Mama Estelle, who'd raised him alone after his father left, who'd taught elementary school in pressed dresses and perfect posture, no matter how tight money got. He checked his phone one last time before landing. A text from Portia. "Sorry, baby. Can't pick you up. At care consultation for Mama E. Take a car? Love you." He typed back, "No problem," trying to ignore the familiar twinge of worry. For 8 months, there'd been a steady stream of reasons why his mother couldn't come to the video calls. She was resting. She had therapy. She wasn't feeling up to it. Then came that call in month 3, Portia's voice tight with concern. Congestive heart failure, she'd said. Early stages, but requiring consistent care. When she mentioned the cost, $2,200 monthly for in-home support and medication, Darius hadn't hesitated. He'd simply adjusted the wire transfer amount, grateful he could provide what his mother needed. The plane touched down with a gentle bump. As passengers around him rushed to grab bags, Darius remained seated, letting his mind drift to the morning he'd left. Mama Estelle had made his favorite breakfast, salmon croquettes and grits. Portia had seemed distracted, checking her phone, but his mother had held his face in her hands and said, "You go build that bridge, baby. I'll be right here when you get back." In the terminal, Darius shouldered his carry-on and ordered a rideshare. The driver was chatty, pointing out new construction and talking about recent changes in the city. Darius responded politely, but his mind was already home, imagining the warmth of his own bed, the comfort of familiar walls. The house looked exactly as he remembered it from the outside, the neat lawn, the trimmed hedges, the porch light glowing welcome. But something felt off the moment he stepped inside. The air was too still, artificially fresh with the chemical sweetness of scented candles trying to mask something else. Everything looked staged, like a model home rather than a lived-in space. "Portia?" His voice echoed slightly in the empty foyer. "Mama?" No answer. He set down his bag, noting how the hardwood gleamed, as if freshly polished. Moving through the house, he noticed other details that pricked at his engineer's mind. Things too perfect, too arranged. The kitchen showed no signs of recent cooking. The family room looked untouched. Then he heard it. A slow, deliberate knock from below. 3 measured beats. Then silence. 3 more. Darius turned toward the basement door. His breath caught at the sight of the heavy padlock secured through a new hasp. Industrial grade, recently installed. The knocking came again, weaker this time. With trembling fingers, he found his house key ring. The padlock key was there, labeled with Portia's neat handwriting. Basement, safety. The lock clicked open with cold precision. He pulled open the door, and the musty darkness below reached up like hands. As his eyes adjusted, he made out a figure in the gloom. Mama Estelle sat in a folding chair, wrapped in what looked like an old blanket. A small space heater glowed orange beside her on the bare concrete floor. She was thinner than he remembered, her face drawn with exhaustion. But when she saw him, something powerful moved through her. That core of dignity that had carried her through raising him alone, through every hard year. She straightened in the chair, chin lifting, and said softly, "I knew you'd come back, baby. I knew you would." Darius lifted his mother from the basement with gentle strength, one arm supporting her back, the other under her knees. She felt lighter than he remembered, too light. Her hands, usually so strong from years of gardening, trembled as they gripped his shirt. Each step up carried the weight of 8 months of betrayal, but his face remained perfectly calm, his movements deliberate and steady. In the kitchen's bright light, the changes in her were starker. Her cheekbones stood sharp against skin that had lost its usual glow. The silk head wrap she always wore with such style sat slightly askew, and her clothes, the same clothes she'd worn with pride as a school administrator, hung loose on her frame. He settled her at the kitchen table, the same table where she'd served his farewell breakfast 8 months ago. His hands didn't shake as he filled a glass with water, added ice the way she liked it, set it before her. The refrigerator was full of expensive groceries, none of them the simple, nourishing foods his mother preferred. He found eggs, bread, and some cheese, enough to make her favorite midnight snack from his childhood. "Start from the beginning, Mama," he said softly, cracking eggs into a bowl. His voice was level, controlled, but something had shifted inside him. Not broken, but transformed, like metal under extreme pressure, becoming something harder and more purposeful. Mama Estelle sipped her water slowly. 2 months after you left, she changed, like a switch flipped. Her voice was hoarse from disuse. First it was little things, cold food, telling me I was in her way when I tried to help in the kitchen. Then she said you'd agreed I should stay in the lower level while they did renovations upstairs. The eggs sizzled as they hit the pan. Darius kept his movements smooth, his breathing even. What renovations? There weren't any. Never saw a single worker. Mama Estelle's hands tightened around the water glass. Then the lock appeared. She said it was for my safety, in case I got confused at night. She'd let me up during the day when she was gone, but as soon as the sun set, Darius placed the plate before her. Eggs perfectly scrambled, toast golden brown, his mother's favorite midnight comfort food, the meal she'd made him countless times during late-night study sessions. "And your phone?" She said she was upgrading it. The new one only had one number, labeled emergency. It always went to her other phone. Mama Estelle took a small bite of toast. I tried calling it once, when I heard her upstairs with someone else, a man's voice. She came down later, said if I did that again, she'd have to reconsider the arrangement. Darius's jaw tightened imperceptibly. He pulled out his phone and dialed Uncle Reggie's number. His uncle answered on the first ring, voice thick with sleep. "Uncle Reg, I need you to come over. Now." Something in his tone must have carried through, because Reggie didn't ask questions. 20 minutes later, Uncle Reggie's heavy steps crossed the porch. When he saw Mama Estelle at the table, his face did everything Darius's wouldn't allow his own to do. Shock, rage, heartbreak playing across his features in rapid succession. "Baby girl," Reggie breathed, crossing to embrace his sister-in-law. Then he turned to Darius, voice hard. "Where's that woman?" "Out," Darius said simply. "I need you to take Mama to your house tonight." "Should we call the police?" Reggie's hands were clenched at his sides. "Not yet." Darius helped his mother stand. "I need to understand everything first." He packed a small bag for her while Uncle Reggie helped her to his car, his movements still perfectly controlled, his face still unnaturally calm. After they left, Darius sat alone in the darkened kitchen. An hour passed. 2. Then he heard Portia's key in the lock, her heels clicking on the hardwood. She walked in carrying shopping bags, smelling of wine and an expensive restaurant. For a moment, seeing him at the table, she froze, a microsecond of panic crossing her face before her features smoothed into warm welcome. "Baby!" She crossed the room quickly, wrapping her arms around him. "I'm so sorry about pickup. The consultation ran late, and you know how important Mama's care is." Her voice was honey-sweet, practiced. Darius stood and returned her embrace, his arms steady, his heart cold. "I'm exhausted," he said simply. "Let's go to bed." Upstairs in their bedroom, he lay beside her in the dark, listening to her breathing even out into sleep. His eyes remained open, his mind already assembling a blueprint for what would come next, organizing facts and evidence like the support beams of a bridge designed to carry exactly the weight needed to bring everything down. The morning light filtered through the kitchen windows as Darius heard the shower start upstairs. He waited until the water had been running for 2 full minutes before moving to the filing cabinet in their home office. The metal drawer slid open smoothly, folders neatly labeled in Portia's precise handwriting. Insurance, taxes, medical records, house documents. His fingers moved methodically through the files, engineer's mind cataloging each absence. No congestive heart failure diagnosis, no prescription records, no receipts from any in-home care provider, no medical bills, no insurance claims, nothing with Dr. Whitfield's letterhead or signature. The medical records folder contained only his own annual physical results and Portia's dental records. The water continued running upstairs as Darius pulled out his phone and dialed Dr. Whitfield's office. A receptionist answered on the second ring, voice professionally cheerful. "Good morning, Doctor." Whitfield's office. "Hello, this is Darius Webb. I'm calling about my mother, Estelle Webb. I need to follow up on her treatment plan." His voice remained steady, controlled. A pause, keyboard clicking. "I'm sorry, sir. I'm not finding any patient by that name in our system. Could you check again? She would have been diagnosed with congestive heart failure about 6 months ago." His free hand rested flat on the desk, perfectly still. More clicking. "I'm sorry, Mr. Webb. We have no record of an Estelle Webb ever being treated here." "Thank you." He ended the call, set the phone down carefully. The shower was still running as he logged into their joint savings account, the one specifically designated for his mother's care. 8 months of deposits, $20,200 each month, totaling $1,760. Current balance, $340.26. He pulled up the transaction history. Each deposit followed by cash withdrawals within days, never the full amount at once, but in increments of $500 or $1,000. Regular, systematic, planned. The water shut off upstairs. Darius picked up his phone again, scrolled to Brenda Okafor's number. She answered immediately. "Darius? How is Lagos?" "Brenda." His voice remained measured, each word precisely chosen. "I need your legal counsel. I came home last night and found my mother locked in the basement. She's been kept there for months. Portia told me she had congestive heart failure, had me sending extra money for care. I just checked. No medical records exist. No doctor. The money's gone, withdrawn in cash." Silence on the line. Then Brenda's voice, sharp and focused. "Don't touch any accounts. Don't move money. Don't let her know you know. I'm starting a file right now. How much was taken? $1,700 for the non-existent medical care. All withdrawn in cash within days of deposit. Documentation of the withdrawals? All in the account history. Good. Stay quiet. Let me start building this. A pause. Darius, I mean it. Don't confront her yet. We need to understand how deep this goes. Understood. He ended the call as footsteps approached on the stairs. Portia appeared in the doorway, wearing a silk robe, her hair wrapped in a towel. She smiled warmly, the same smile he'd come home to for 6 years. Baby, you're up early. Still on Lagos time? Just catching up on some paperwork. He closed the laptop smoothly. Let me make you breakfast. Your favorite, cheesy scrambled eggs? Her voice was light, affectionate. The same voice that had called him in Lagos to say his mother needed expensive medical care. That would be nice. He smiled back, watching her move through their kitchen with familiar grace. She hummed while she cooked, telling him about plans for the weekend, asking about his flight, her hands expertly cracking eggs and grating cheese, the same hands that had locked his mother in a basement and systematically emptied their accounts. When she set the plate before him, the eggs were perfect, just the way he liked them. He ate slowly, responding to her questions about Lagos with careful detail, maintaining eye contact when appropriate. His responses were pleasant, engaged, present. Inside, his mind worked like it did on complex structural problems, examining load-bearing points, calculating pressure tolerances, identifying exactly where and how things would need to be dismantled. His mother had taught him patience. His profession had taught him precision. Both would serve him now. Portia refilled his coffee, her hand brushing his shoulder affectionately. More toast, baby? Yes, thank you. He smiled up at her, his expression perfectly calibrated. 3 moves ahead, and she had no idea the game had even started. That afternoon, Darius sat in Brenda's downtown office, the city skyline visible through wide windows. Spread across her desk were 8 months of bank statements and credit card records from the Webb household accounts. Brenda held a yellow legal pad, making precise notes as they worked through each document. Here, Darius said, pointing to a series of charges. Restaurants in Buckhead. We never go to Buckhead. His finger moved down the statement. Marcel's, St. Cecilia, Le Bilboquet. These are date spots. Brenda nodded, writing. And these hotel charges? The Whitley, 4 times. Each time matches weekends. Portia said she was visiting her sister Jade. His voice remained steady, clinical. The Waldorf, too. 3 separate stays. Expensive taste. Brenda's pen kept moving. Then this. Darius tapped a recurring charge. Creed Properties, LLC. Monthly payments to a luxury apartment complex off Peachtree. Started small, $800 the second month I was gone. Then $1,400 in month 4. 3 more transfers after that. Brenda typed rapidly on her computer. Let me pull the LLC registration. Here it is. Creed Properties, LLC, registered to Alonzo Creed, 41. Self-described real estate developer. She scrolled. Thin actual development portfolio. Lots of social media presence. Very carefully managed public image. What else? 2 prior civil suits. Brenda's eyes narrowed at the screen. 1 in Savannah, 1 in Charlotte. Both settled quietly. Both involved financial fraud allegations that never became criminal charges. She looked up. He's done this before. Done what exactly? Based on these filings, he finds women with access to resources, builds romantic relationships, creates legitimate-looking business entities, and extracts money through them, clean enough to avoid prosecution, messy enough to pressure settlements. She scrolled further. The Savannah victim lost $42,000 before she caught on. Charlotte was $38,000. Darius absorbed this. How much total from our accounts to his LLC? Brenda checked her notes. $15,200 confirmed transfers. But here's what stops me cold. She turned the screen toward him. Look at the LLC registration date. 11 months ago. Darius sat back. 1 month before I left for Lagos. Exactly. This wasn't opportunistic. The receiving vehicle was set up before there was money to receive. Before you even boarded that plane. Brenda's voice was precise, controlled anger underneath. He built the infrastructure for this in advance, which means Portia was involved with him before I left. Darius's hands were flat on the desk. And the medical fraud wasn't just theft. It was their war chest. Money she could pull in cash that you wouldn't question because it was for your mother's care. Brenda made another note. While Alonzo's LLC provided a seemingly legitimate place to park other funds, Darius stood. I need to see something. 20 minutes later, he parked across from the luxury apartment complex where the LLC charges originated. Modern architecture, valet parking, floor-to-ceiling windows. He waited. Engine off, hands resting on the steering wheel. At 3:42 p.m., Portia's silver Lexus pulled into the parking garage. He waited. At 4:53 p.m., she emerged with a man, tall, well-dressed, confident in his movements. They walked close together, laughing about something. The man's hand rested on the small of Portia's back with practiced familiarity. They stopped at her car. He leaned down to kiss her cheek before she got in. Darius watched without expression. He didn't take photos. He didn't need to. He started his car and drove home. In their kitchen, he wiped down counters that were already clean, started marinating chicken for dinner, set the table with the plates they'd received as wedding gifts. When Portia came home at 6:30, he was chopping vegetables. She kissed his cheek, dropped her purse on the counter. How was your welcome back lunch? She asked. Good to see everyone. He kept chopping. How's Jade doing? Haven't heard much about her lately. Oh, she's great. Portia's voice was warm, natural. Had a lovely visit with her last weekend, actually. She's thinking about going back to school. Darius nodded, sliding perfectly diced bell peppers into a bowl. That's wonderful. Always good to invest in yourself. He watched her move through their kitchen. This woman he'd shared a life with for 6 years, and thought about the careful architecture of lies she'd built, about Alonzo Creed's hand on her back, about his mother in a basement while they dined at Le Bilboquet. Wine with dinner? Portia held up a bottle. Perfect. He smiled, already composing in his mind exactly how he would approach Jade. But that could wait. For now, he had chicken to grill and a performance to maintain. The next morning, Darius pulled out his phone and composed a careful text to Jade. Back from Lagos. Would love to catch up over coffee if you're free today. Simple, casual, the kind of message any brother-in-law might send after 8 months away. Jade's response came quickly. Sure. 2 p.m. at Revolution Coffee? Perfect. See you then. He arrived early, choosing a quiet corner table away from the afternoon crowd. Through the window, he watched Jade park her Honda, check her reflection in the rearview mirror, and sit there for a long moment before getting out. Her shoulders were tight, her movements hesitant. When she walked in, Darius stood to hug her. She returned the embrace stiffly, then sat down, hands wrapped around her paper cup like a shield. Thanks for meeting me, he said warmly. How have you been? Good. Busy with work. Jade's eyes wouldn't quite meet his. She picked at the cardboard sleeve on her cup. How was Nigeria? Challenging project. Learned a lot. He paused, letting the silence stretch just long enough. Missed home, though. Missed family. Always good to reconnect. Jade nodded too quickly. Right, of course. Family's important. It is. Darius took a slow sip of coffee. That's actually why I wanted to talk to you, Jade. About family. Her fingers tightened on the cup. Oh? I found something when I got home. His voice stayed gentle. In the basement. My mother was down there, in a folding chair, with a space heater, and a padlock on the door. Jade's face drained of color. Her cup hit the table hard enough to slosh coffee. What? A padlock, Jade. On the outside of the door. No. She shook her head. No. She wouldn't. Portia never said. Her voice cracked. Miss Estelle was locked in? For months. While I sent money for medical care she never received. While Portia spent weekends that weren't actually visits with you. Tears welled in Jade's eyes. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I knew about some things, but not that. Never that. I would have said something if… I know. He handed her a napkin. Tell me what you did know. The words came in rushes, like she'd been holding them back for months. Yes, Portia had been seeing Alonzo before Darius left. Yes, she'd talked about plans, about getting money together where no one could trace it. She'd called Darius a stepping stone once, laughing over wine, saying she was done stepping on him. Get liquid was how she put it, Jade said miserably, before filing the papers. Alonzo told her exactly how to do it. Small withdrawals, nothing that would flag the bank. He'd done it before, he said. Knew all the tricks. The medical care money. Jade nodded. She said you'd never question anything marked for Miss Estelle's treatment. That your love for your mother made you stupid about money. Fresh tears spilled. I'm sorry. I should have told you. But she's my sister. And I thought… I don't know what I thought. You thought family loyalty meant keeping quiet. Yes. It came out like relief, like someone finally understood. But Miss Estelle is family too. In that basement. I never would have… She straightened suddenly. What do you need from me? Whatever it is, I'll do it. Darius studied her carefully. I'm not going to make you choose sides publicly. This isn't about forcing you to stand against your sister. But when the time comes, and it will come, I'm going to need you to tell the truth to the right people. Just the truth. Exactly like you've told me today. Yes. Immediate. Emphatic. Yes. I will. I promise. Her whole body seemed to relax, like she'd been carrying a weight she could finally set down. I should have done it months ago. You're doing it now. That matters. They talked a while longer, Jade sharing small details that would help complete the picture. When they finally stood to leave, she hugged him again. Genuine this time. Almost desperate. Thank you, she whispered, for not hating me. Never did, he said simply. That evening, Darius sat across from Portia at their dining room table, watching her talk about her day, about plans for the weekend, about maybe hosting a dinner party soon. He smiled at the right moments, asked the right questions, reached across to squeeze her hand when she mentioned missing him while he was away. His patience was a fortress now. Every brick mortared with purpose, every wall measured twice. He had what he needed. 2 days later, Darius sat at his desk reviewing structural calculations when his phone buzzed. Brenda's name lit up the screen. I need you in my office. Now, she said without preamble. There's something in the property records you have to see. The urgency in her voice made him close his laptop immediately. On my way. 20 minutes later, he walked into Brenda's office. She had papers spread across her desk, post-it notes marking key pages. Her usual composed expression was tight, with contained anger. Sit down, she said, pushing a document toward him. Look at this. Darius scanned the page. It was a home equity line of credit application for $60,000 against his house, the house he'd bought before marrying Portia, the one still titled solely in his name. I don't understand, he said slowly. I never applied for this. No, Brenda agreed, but someone did. Look at the signature page. There it was, what appeared to be his signature, the familiar loops and angles he'd been using for decades. But something felt wrong about it. The strokes were too perfect, too precise. I had our forensic document examiner look at it, Brenda continued. See these faint marks around the letters? She pointed with a pen. Those are practice traces. Someone sat down and worked at copying your signature until they got it right. This wasn't impulse. This was planned. Darius felt cold settle in his stomach. When was this submitted? 3 days ago. from an IP address that traces to a coffee shop 2 blocks from Creed Properties LLC's registered office address. Brenda's voice was steel. Either Alonzo submitted it himself, or he was physically present when it happened. Either way, his fingerprints are all over this. How long until it processes? 11 days to approval, based on standard timeline. But I've already flagged it at the bank, quietly, through channels that won't trigger any notification to the applicant. She shuffled papers. And that's not all. I've prepared a formal fraud complaint for the DA's office. It names both Portia and Alonzo as co-conspirators. She laid out the complete package: the elder abuse documentation, bank records showing the $1,700 in medical fraud withdrawals, transfer records tracking $1,200 to Creed Properties LLC, and now the forged mortgage application. We're not just looking at civil fraud anymore, Brenda explained. This is criminal territory. Elder abuse, wire fraud, conspiracy, and now forgery. The DA's office will take this seriously, especially with the pattern we can show through Alonzo's prior civil suits. Darius studied each page carefully, his engineer's mind mapping the connections, seeing how each piece reinforced the others. You've built this like a load-bearing wall. That's exactly what it is. Every element supporting the others, no weak points they can attack. She leaned back. How do you want to play the timing? How long did you say until that HELOC application would clear? 11 days. That's enough, Darius said quietly. That gives me time to position everything exactly where it needs to be. He left Brenda's office with a clear sequence in his mind. That evening, he took Portia to dinner at her favorite restaurant. Watched her order the wine she loved, listened to her talk about plans for redecorating their bedroom. After dinner, he stopped at a boutique she liked and bought her a small silver bracelet. Nothing extravagant, just enough to maintain the illusion of comfort and normalcy. In the car on the way home, he turned to her with a warm smile. I've been thinking, we should do a proper family welcome home gathering at Uncle Reggie's this weekend. It's important to me, having everyone together after being gone so long. Portia beamed at him, reaching over to squeeze his hand. That sounds perfect, baby. I'd love that. He squeezed back, his grip gentle, his mind already mapping the precise architectural details of what would happen in that room. In 11 days, every carefully constructed lie would collapse. But tonight, he simply drove them home, his patience a foundation built to withstand exactly the load it needed to carry. The next morning, Darius sat at Uncle Reggie's kitchen table laying out everything in measured, precise detail. The medical fraud, the basement, the padlock, the forged HELOC application, the LLC formed before he even left the country. He watched his uncle's face darken with each revelation, but Reggie didn't interrupt once. When Darius finished, silence filled the kitchen for a long moment. Finally, Reggie folded his hands on the table. Tell me what you need. I need your house for the gathering this weekend, Darius said. And I need you to understand, this isn't going to be a celebration. This is going to be a reckoning. You got this place whenever you need it, Reggie said without hesitation. What else? Just be present. Be a witness. That's all I'm asking of anyone. Back at his office, Darius called Brenda. Is everything submitted? The DA's office received the full package this morning, she confirmed. Elder abuse documentation, financial records, forgery evidence, all of it. They're taking it seriously. The bank fraud division has already opened a separate investigation thread on Alonzo, based on the IP address connection to the HELOC application. They're particularly interested in his prior civil suits, now that we've established a pattern. Good, Darius said. That's the foundation. Now we build the walls. He spent an hour organizing documents into a leather portfolio, arranging them in the exact sequence he would present them. Bank statements showing the $1,700 in medical care withdrawals. The letter from Dr. Whitfield's office confirming no patient record existed. The LLC registration dated 1 month before his departure, the forensic analysis of the forged signature, the IP address report linking the HELOC submission to Alonzo's business location, each piece a brick, mortared with precision. Next, he called Mama Estelle. She answered on the first ring. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Better every day," she said. "Reggie may drive me crazy with his fussing, but I'm getting stronger. Mama, I need to tell you what's happening this weekend." He explained the gathering, the confrontation he had planned, the evidence he would present. "I want you there, but only if you feel ready. This is going to be heavy." "Baby," she said, her voice steady as steel. "I have been waiting 6 years to be in that room." That woman smiled in my face while she locked me in a basement. "I'm not missing this. It might get ugly." "Ugly happened in that basement," she replied. "This is just truth coming to light." After hanging up, Darius called Jade. She answered cautiously. "The family gathering this weekend," he said. "I need you there. Portia will expect me to take her side." "I'm not asking you to take sides," he said gently. "I'm just asking you to be present when the truth comes out. The room needs a witness who knows what's real." Silence stretched between them. Then, "What time?" 4 o'clock. "Uncle Reggie's house." "I'll be there," she said quietly. "And Darius? I'm sorry. About all of it." "Don't be sorry," he replied. "Just be honest." That evening, he reviewed every document one final time, ensuring each page was in perfect order. The portfolio sat on his desk like architectural plans, every detail measured twice. In the kitchen, Portia hummed while loading the dishwasher. She came up behind him, wrapped her arms around his shoulders. "I'm so glad you're home," she said softly. "Things are going to be good now. I can feel it." He reached up, patted her hand where it rested on his chest. "I agree," he said. "Everything is going to be exactly what it needs to be." Later, lying in bed, he listened to her breathing even out into sleep. The portfolio waited on his desk, ready for Saturday. For the first time since finding his mother in that basement, he felt completely calm. Everything was positioned. Every detail was accounted for. Every structural element was in place. He closed his eyes and slept soundly, dreaming of buildings rising true and straight into clear sky. Saturday afternoon settled over Uncle Reggie's house like a heavy blanket. The living room clock ticked steadily as family members arrived one by one. Uncle Reggie stood in his kitchen, brewing coffee nobody would drink. Jade sat quietly in the corner, hands folded in her lap. Mama Estelle took her place at the head of the dining table, back straight, chin lifted, wearing her Sunday dress like armor. When Portia walked in at 4 sharp, the room's temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. She stepped through the doorway smiling, carrying a covered dish she'd prepared to maintain the illusion of a celebration. The smile froze on her face when she saw Mama Estelle. "Estelle!" Portia's voice pitched too high, strain showing at the edges. Aren't you supposed to be visiting your cousins in Macon?" Mama Estelle looked at her without blinking, without speaking. Her silence filled the room like smoke. "I'm so glad to see you." Portia tried again, her words falling into dead air. "You're looking well." Still nothing. Just those steady eyes, that straight spine, that dignified stillness. Darius gestured to an empty chair. "Sit down, Portia." She hesitated, then settled into the chair, smoothing her skirt with trembling hands. Her eyes darted around the room, to Jade, who studied the floor, to Uncle Reggie, who stood in the kitchen doorway with his arms crossed, to the leather portfolio sitting closed on the table in front of Darius. "What is this?" she asked, her voice smaller now. "This," Darius said quietly, "is everything you built while I was gone." He opened the portfolio with careful hands, "and everything you're about to lose because of it." He began laying out documents one by one, his voice never rising above conversation level. Each paper made a soft sound as it touched the wooden table. The basement where you locked my mother. The space heater you gave her instead of heat. The padlock you installed to keep her contained. Portia's face contorted. That's not... I was protecting her. She was confused. She kept wandering. Dr. Whitfield's office has no record of her as a patient. Darius continued, placing the letter from the medical office. No diagnosis, no prescriptions, no care plan. But here are the bank records showing $17,600 withdrawn in cash, taken from money I sent specifically for her medical care. There's an explanation, Portia started, tears welling. If you'd just let me. The withdrawal pattern is interesting, Darius went on, laying down more statements. Small amounts, spread out. Always just under reporting thresholds. Almost like someone knew exactly how to move money without triggering bank alerts. Portia stood abruptly. This is ridiculous. I don't have to sit here and... Sit down? Uncle Reggie's voice carried from the doorway. She sat. Darius placed the LLC registration on the table. Creed Properties LLC, formed exactly 1 month before I left for Lagos. 11 months of payments totaling $15,200, listed in our household accounts as maintenance and repairs. Another document. The apartment complex charges. The hotel stays on weekends you were supposedly visiting Jade. Portia's eyes snapped to her sister. Jade kept staring at the floor. And this, Darius said, placing the HELOC application and forensic report, submitted from a coffee shop 2 blocks from Alonzo's registered business address, with my signature traced onto it. A signature you practiced until you thought you had it right. You don't understand. Portia's voice cracked. Alonzo said he promised. The bank has been notified about the fraud. The DA's office has a complete package documenting the elder abuse, the wire transfers, and the forgery. You and Alonzo are both named. I've retained divorce counsel. You're leaving the house tonight. Portia's face crumpled. Please, baby, we can work this out. I love you. I made mistakes, but you used my love for my mother like it was a tool, Darius said, his voice still quiet, still measured. She raised me in that house. You locked her in the basement of it. I need you to understand. This isn't me being angry. This is me making sure you never mistake someone's patience for weakness again. The room held its breath. Portia looked desperately around the circle of faces, finding no ally, no escape route, no way to reframe this into something she could survive. Then Mama Estelle spoke, her voice clear as a church bell. I'll pray for you. That's the most you're getting from this family. The days after the confrontation settled into a steady rhythm. Darius returned to his office, diving back into structural calculations and project timelines. His evenings belonged to Mama Estelle, sharing quiet dinners at Uncle Reggie's house, where she was staying temporarily. Between meetings, he took Brenda's calls, tracking each legal development as the machinery of justice ground forward with mechanical precision. The criminal charges landed first. The DA's office filed 2 counts against Portia: elder abuse and financial elder abuse. The charging documents were clean, precise, built on the foundation of documentation Darius had assembled. Each bank statement, each withdrawal slip, each falsified medical claim formed another brick in the wall she couldn't climb over. The bank fraud investigation opened a separate track focused on Alonzo. His attorney attempted to position him as merely a passive recipient, just a man who had received money from a woman he was dating, unaware of its origins. That defense crumbled under the weight of 3 key pieces of evidence: the LLC formation, exactly 1 month before Darius's departure, the HELOC application submitted from his business address, and the pattern established by his prior civil suits in Savannah and Charlotte. The prior conduct documentation was crucial, Brenda explained during one of their daily calls. It let us establish this wasn't a one-time lapse in judgment. This was his business model. Alonzo's attorney recognized the futility of fighting these charges at trial. The evidence was too clean, too comprehensive. A plea deal emerged: 2 years of probation, full restitution of the $1,200 received through Creed Properties LLC, community service hours, and the permanent dissolution of the LLC with a prohibition on reforming it under the same name. But the most damaging element of the plea wasn't the penalties. It was the requirement for Alonzo to provide a complete written account of his role in the scheme, including the pre-departure planning phase. That account would become part of the public court record, available to anyone who went looking. Within days of its filing, his 2 primary investors in the DeKalb County strip mall development pulled their funding. The project collapsed. He lost his earnest money on the property. By the end of the month, he had relocated to his mother's home in Macon, his carefully constructed image of success dismantled as methodically as he had once constructed it. The divorce proceedings moved with similar inevitability. Portia's documented financial misconduct eliminated any claim she might have made to marital assets. Her attorney, reviewing the evidence package, privately advised her to accept whatever terms Darius offered. She did. She walked away with almost nothing, which was, Darius thought but never said aloud, precisely what she had contributed to their marriage. On the morning of Portia's sentencing hearing, Darius did not go to the courthouse. Instead, he submitted Mama Estelle's victim impact statement to be read by the prosecuting attorney. She had written it herself, in her own clear hand, 3 paragraphs that captured 6 years of quiet observation and 3 months of calculated cruelty. "I watched you," she wrote, "pretend to love my son for 6 years. I kept quiet because I believed in letting him make his own choices. But what you did wasn't about choices. It was about seeing his goodness as a weakness you could use. You saw his trust as a tool. You saw his love as a ladder you could climb and then kick away. You locked me in the dark because you thought nobody would ever turn the lights on. But my son is an engineer. He builds things to last. And what he built for you was consequences." Brenda called from the courthouse to tell him Portia had sat at the defense table throughout the reading. Eyes fixed downward, shoulders curved inward, never once looking up. The judge had noted the particular calculation involved in using a falsified medical diagnosis to extract funds, calling it a profound betrayal of family trust. Darius sat in his car in the office parking lot after the call ended. He did not feel triumph. He did not feel rage. He felt the quiet satisfaction of an engineer who had identified a structural flaw, calculated the load-bearing requirements, and built something solid enough to hold. He sat there for a long moment, hands resting lightly on the steering wheel. Then he started the car and drove home. 14 months had passed like water under one of Darius's bridges. On this particular morning, he stood in his backyard, coffee mug warming his hands, watching Mama Estelle tend to her container garden. The early light caught the silver in her hair as she carefully pinched dead leaves from her tomato plants. Through the new floor-to-ceiling windows of what had once been a dark basement, sunlight streamed into her properly finished in-law suite. The renovation had been his first priority after everything settled. He'd transformed the space entirely, installing a private entrance with a covered walkway leading to the garden, a full bathroom with grab bars and a walk-in shower, a compact but complete kitchen with cherry cabinets that matched Mama's old house. The concrete floors were now covered in warm bamboo, and windows lined the garden-facing wall, filling the space with natural light. It wasn't just livable, it was dignified. Like her. His phone buzzed. Another message from the Atlanta development firm that had been courting him to lead their infrastructure division. The salary they were offering would have seemed impossible 10 years ago. Now, he let the message sit unread. He had learned something about the value of taking his time, of examining foundations before building on them. Inside his home office, a birthday card from Jade sat on his desk. Their relationship had found its own careful balance after she testified in the criminal proceedings. They never mentioned Portia's name, but they maintained a kind of honest distance. Cards on birthdays, brief responses, acknowledgement without pretense. She had done the right thing in that courtroom, speaking clearly about what she knew. That mattered. Brenda's latest draft proposal for their mentorship program lay open beside the card. They had spent months refining the structure, a pipeline for young black engineers in Atlanta, the kind of support system Darius had never had. The program would pair established professionals with students, provide internship opportunities, and help navigate the particular challenges of being black, in a field that still had too few faces that looked like theirs. Brenda had become more than his attorney. She was family now, the kind of friend who showed up with takeout on random weeknights and argued about basketball statistics while they worked through program details. The mail arrived as Darius was reviewing construction specifications for his latest project. Among the usual envelopes was a letter with a Savannah return address he didn't recognize. Inside, he found 3 carefully handwritten pages. "Dear Mr. Webb," it began, "you don't know me, but I know Alonzo Creed. 2 years ago, he did to me what he tried to do to you, though I wasn't as strong or as smart about it as you were. I stayed quiet out of shame, convinced that somehow I should have known better, should have seen it coming. I let him settle quietly, because I couldn't bear the thought of people knowing how completely I had been fooled." Darius read on, as the woman explained how seeing Alonzo's written account in the public court record, the one required by his plea deal, had changed everything for her. There it was in black and white, his whole playbook, his pattern, the way he chose his targets and built his schemes. It wasn't just me. It wasn't just you. It was what he did, deliberately and repeatedly. Having that document gave me something I could point to and say, this is what he does, and this is how he does it. And I was not foolish. I was targeted. She was pursuing civil restitution now, she wrote, with a much stronger case thanks to the pattern evidence his prosecution had created. I want you to know that your refusal to handle this quietly, your insistence on documentation and consequences, reached further than you knew. You built something larger than your own justice. Darius read the letter twice, then folded it carefully and placed it in a file in his desk drawer. Not out of pride, out of documentation. Because he was an engineer, and engineers kept the records that proved what they built was sound. That evening found him at his drafting table, lamp pooling yellow light on calculations for a new pedestrian bridge project. The numbers flowed through his pencil with familiar precision. He heard soft footsteps and smiled without looking up. Mama Estelle appeared in the doorway in her housecoat, carrying 2 cups of tea, just as she had when he was a boy studying late into the night. She set 1 cup beside his drafting table without a word. He reached up and squeezed her hand, eyes still on his calculations. She patted his shoulder once and returned to her room, her slippers whispering against the hardwood floors. Darius took a sip of the perfectly sweetened tea and returned to his work. Some things, he thought, were worth the patience to build right. I hope you enjoyed that one. Be sure to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss the next story. I've picked out 2 more for you that I think you'll really like.